Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John, and today I'm paying tribute to the robots the only way I know how, by reviewing one of their full-length albums, their sophomore effort released in 2001, Discovery. The French electronic duo Daft Punk have always been a very important role in my musical story, in growing up and coming of age and branching out and trying out new genres, and while I did review Random Access Memories on the channel back in 2013, I'd like to think that I got just a little bit better at revealing how I feel on albums and expressing that in video form, so allow me to talk about Discovery in this throwback review. I am still planning to do a Redemption review for Rams sometime in the future, along with a top 10 Daft Punk songs, so if you're excited for that, if you like to see the throwback coverage, then drop a like on this video and let me know in the comments down below. I could end the review after just 5 words. Daft Punk are fucking legendary. I could walk away on that note and it would technically be accurate. I'm not in the business of handing out half-assed reviews to absolute icons though, so I'm gonna try and go just a little bit deeper than that because Discovery lends itself to discussion, and of course this album has been reviewed, talked about, and picked apart a million times over, so I'm just here to kind of give my insight and opinion. Leading up to the release of Discovery, Daft Punk essentially gave themselves an entire facelift, because before, you would see their faces occasionally, they wore other kinds of masks, but the robots as we know them were born out of the Discovery era and went on to be something that I think a lot of DJs, a lot of other electronic musicians, they tried to copy it, but as we know, image is not everything, just ask Marshmello. Cheap shots aside, Daft Punk established a scene, an image, and an aesthetic with their robot helmets that everybody wanted to emulate. Their stage presence was huge as well, the pyramids, Alive 2007, there was so much that started here around 2000 to 2001 that would kind of set the bar so high for the industry. Discovery actually wasn't my first full-length experience with them. That award would go to Homework, unless we're counting the Tron Legacy soundtrack, which is amazing. Not that I don't have respect for Homework, it's a very good album. But in the 5 years between that and '96, leading up to Discovery, virtually everything progressed in a very, very consequential way. You see, with this album, it showed that Daft Punk were refusing to pigeonhole themselves. They didn't just want to be one genre or one scene, and obviously at this time in 2001, electronic music, it barely had a foot in the door when it came to charting worldwide outside of the clubs and the underground movement, but Daft Punk went global with this, and I really respect the fact that even though I'm obviously not the biggest electronic fan out there, any electronic fan that watches my channel probably knows that and hates me for it, it's something that I see is so respectable, commendable with Daft Punk, because they're clearly extremely rigorous with their production routines, with their songwriting, even with the vocals and the sampling. It goes so far to bring in live instrumentation along with the programming. At the time, some of Daft Punk's fans from their home country of France were starting to grow resentful of them because they were starting to get really big. They were becoming a household name, not just in France, but in Mexico, in Canada, in the UK, in the States even, and obviously, Defunct was a big single around the world from the first 2 albums. People were kind of familiar, but this is an entire full-length album that went leaps and bounds to break all kinds of expectations. When I dove into the vaults of the internet to find how this album was received by critics back in 2001, I was kinda shocked to see the lukewarm to slightly positive leaning reception it got. It's not like people were tearing it apart, but still, considering now, decades later, this album is viewed as one of the greatest of all time, especially in the electronic, house, and disco scene, it's weird to think about how perceptions change and how this absolutely was a game changer. Personally, I see this as a flawed album, although its flaws are very trivial at the end of the day, considering how much charisma Daft Punk are able to bring to the table. You're not going to find too many records that hold such a perfect balance of groove and energy. Tight sampling from live instruments brings a lot of spunky bass to spice up the mix, and the electronic programming gets downright feisty on some of the album's most lively cuts, like One More Time and Short Circuit. Repetition is a key factor for music of this nature, but even more important is how that looping can make or break your song if it's done poorly. Daft Punk threw caution to the wind with some of these unique drops. I mean, imagine not losing your shit to Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger when that one finally breaks loose. They put in just enough of those mountaintop accelerations to make those in-between times in the valley feel like soothing, peaceful passages, kinda like a peaceful moment of closure before getting right back up to dance. A lot of Daft Punk's best songs have a home on this record, and after sifting through their discography one more time, I think I can confidently say that I feel this is my favorite album from them personally, although it's just a very slim margin between that and Random Access Memories. This is an album that has a lot of essential tracks, and I want to quickly break down and talk about some of my personal favorites, and as I look over at the list, there's actually a pretty big chunk of the record here, but I'm gonna make it quick because I know this album's been talked about a lot. From the mind-blowing singles like One More Time and Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, and of course Face to Face, the vocal features, along with Daft Punk's very own vocals being featured on the album, always feel very refreshing. I love the fact that they're able to take some of these songs, build them up to enormous heights, and then drop you right back into it. Some of the guitars that are sampled on these tracks are phenomenal. I think that out of those, Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger is probably my personal favorite from the singles. It just means a lot to me, and every single time it really kicks in, you can't help but go absolutely wild. Digital Love feels like a warm bath, just embracing your entire body and giving you a nice kiss on the forehead. It's an incredible song that 20 years later, it shouldn't stand up as well as it does, but here we are with those vocals, the production, the keys on this track, the little danceable melodies. It's so fascinating. I've got a lot of love for some of the more up-tempo tracks on the album, like Aerodynamic, that absolutely does make you feel like you're flying through the air, and then what I find to be possibly the most underrated track on the album, Short Circuit. This song is incredible. It's one of the ones that I've been listening to the most since I heard the news of them disbanding. It really does have a lot of energy, a lot of warbled bass. I love the keys on this track. It's very upfront, but also very groovy. High Life is unfortunately the weakest song on the album. The vocal sampling, it gets to be a bit much, and for fans of the genre, it might do it for you. That, alongside the closing track, Too Long, it's almost in the title. There's definitely interesting passages that take place, and I like the experimentation, but some of the vocals, they just get a bit grating. Tucked away in between there, though, between High Life at track 8 and then the closing track Too Long at track 14, we have one of the best 3-track runs on the entire LP. Something About Us, just the meticulous bass, the nice groove, the vocals that feel very, very lush and personable, and then Voyager, and then Veridis Quo. All three of those tracks just feel extremely special, and if you've never really sat down and focused in on just those three back to back to back, then I really recommend you do so. Discovery is an ignition switch of an album. There are moods for really everyone and every different type of fan, even people who aren't super into electronic music like myself. I think you can find a lot to love here. The sampling, the grooves are so tight and well done. The production is second to none. Of course, this is Daft Punk we're talking about. They are absolutely overachievers, but they do it in the best way and make it sound like ear candy. And overall, for this album Discovery, released 20 years ago as of 2021, it's gonna be a 4.5 out of 5 from me. Thank you guys so much for watching this throwback review. I really appreciate it when you guys tune into these. If you want to show it some love, then drop a like on the video, subscribe for the love of music, and let me know your thoughts on this record in the comments down below. If you want to see my tribute to Daft Punk, then you can tap on this card here, or you can tap here for a very old review of Random Access Memories. All of my socials can be found in the description down below, and I'll be back soon for more on ARTV.